Good afternoon. I'm going to talk about a project which is about a kind of parallel with actually what the last project was, but this is actually about kind of empowering and supporting carers' own management skills of people who have a diagnosis of dementia. My name is Rinaldi. I'm the head of recovery at South West London St George's Mental Health Trust, and there's this kind of small team of us who are kind of working on this project. I suppose the kind of like why? How did this all come about? And I suppose a lot of this has actually just been drawn out of discussions, conversations, but also kind of getting a real sense of carers' experiences of coming into contact with the mental health system, but also different agencies around in terms of kind of social care, the Alzheimer's Society, and other kind of non-statutory agencies in the London Borough of Merton, where this project is taking place. And I think what came out is that actually people go through a huge amount of stress and strain, and it kind of echoes, I think, some of the things the first speaker was talking about in terms of increased levels of depression, but also just overall high levels of stress as people come into contact with specialist dementia services in secondary mental health services. But what carers themselves often say is that they need information. They also want education, but in a sense, they also want some very, very practical guidance, some skills to kind of how to work with and deal with their kind of their family members' symptoms of dementia. The other part that also comes up is more of a systems issue, that carers talk very much about actually having quite a lot of challenges in terms of actually navigating a local health and social care system and the associated partner agencies, often coming into contact with, say, one member of staff from somewhere, but they're not quite understanding how they all connect together. Carers, I suppose the parallel I drew this when we were kind of thinking around this project was carers were talking about almost themselves being the care coordinator. So although there may be a kind of statutory care coordinator, carers themselves were actually in that kind of position themselves. They were in reality project managing the care and support that their family member was receiving. And so because of that, they actually needed to understand who was who and how they all related together. Now, at the time when we were kind of putting this together and really listening to those experiences that people were talking about, I came across the second paper here, the Brodati paper, published in the American Journal of Psychiatry. And kind of by chance, like within a 2-week period, somebody actually emailed me the Gitlin paper, and there were kind of huge parallels with what both these papers were actually saying, and actually just illustrating the huge evidence base that actually already exists in enabling carers, training up carers in all kinds of kind of very practical skills, but also some forms of psychosocial interventions to kind of help better manage their family members' dementia and their symptoms. And so we kind of took the experiences of carers and these two papers, and we just tried to just kind of translate into a kind of project. Now, in terms of what the two papers were saying, they are kind of big papers because they're kind of meta-analysis and literature reviews. But in summary, one of the three things we really took from these papers was, whilst the kind of that burden of care has kind of been very well documented, there's kind of actually been very, very little appreciation around what carers can do to influence the kind of occurrence and the severity of the symptoms that the person with dementia experiences. And actually, with the right type of interventions, can actually have a big impact in terms of, obviously, the symptoms the person's experiencing, but the kind of overall quality of life, along with carers' own reactions to those symptoms. The Gitlin paper speaks very much around actually looking at kind of very practical, skills-based and educational-based courses for carers, so that actually they can develop and kind of translate psychosocial interventions, but actually just take them and use them in everyday life when they're supporting their family member at home. So these are the kind of things we took from this. And what we've trying to do is kind of three different things. And I suppose they kind of fall into two work packages. The first work package is to kind of co-produce, and I really mean co-produce here, kind of working with a range of different people, carers, people diagnosed with dementia, the Alzheimer's Society, mental health services in terms of the Merton Older People's Team, which is an integrated health and social care team, to really kind of develop a kind of what we're calling a kind of protocol around vulnerability that ranks levels of need and identifies where and how carers can access statutory and non-statutory services. So almost kind of at the individual level, having a very clear plan of action zoned, which is a kind of form of RAG rating in terms of red, amber and green, in terms of those kind of vulnerabilities and needs, and then who to contact, when and how. Now, I suppose the underpinning thing that we're trying to kind of really pull together here is that recognition of the kind of the chains of care that go on between the individual carer and different agencies who are providing care and support. And I suppose a lot of other speakers have kind of spoken about this already, but just the differences in language that different agencies, different professions use. And so through this process, what we're actually just trying to do is to create a common language, so that when a carer makes contact with, say, the Merton Older People's team, there's a shared understanding of language used, which enables the team to identify the level of risk and then what needs to happen in relation to that. But I suppose the ultimate part is actually creating a shared understanding across carers, health and social care staff, voluntary sector agencies and all other people involved in the person's care, so that there is that kind of clear understanding around what to do, how and when. The second programme which we're working on is again to co-produce with everybody a kind of set of educational and skills-based programmes to support the implementation of the protocol. So it's kind of one thing to have the plan, but if you haven't got the kind of the skills, the education and the knowledge to go with it, then it makes it kind of a trickier process to kind of implement from a carer's perspective. So we're kind of pulling that together, and they kind of focus around, again, very practical things around kind of problem solving, kind of activity planning, issues around the environment, but also importantly kind of the issues of self-care for the carer. How can the carer kind of look after themselves, make sure that they're being screened by their GP for depression and other kind of physical health issues, etc. And what's also come up is the issue around kind of skills and education on how to collaborate with health and social care professionals. So creating a kind of more even and level playing field to really kind of participate in best interest decisions, but also in shared decision making overall. So in essence, what we're trying to do is then kind of build carers' resilience and improve the care managing experience. We're evaluating both of the work packages. The protocol, we're kind of really just looking at it at this stage in terms of kind of its face validity, in terms of the feedback of experiences, the usefulness, the relevance of the protocol, in partnership not only with carers, but also with the Alzheimer's Society, who are a key partner in this, and health and social care professionals. But we're also asking carers to complete the assessment of managing index of the caregiving experience. So kind of just to see actually does it make a difference in terms of that experience and their own levels of stress. The educational and skills-based courses are building on the work that we've done through South West London in terms of setting up what was called a recovery college, which is an educational facility mainly for adults with severe and enduring mental health problems, but expanding that work into carers of people with dementia in the same way that we have done for carers of people with psychosis. The courses, once they're co-produced, they are going to be co-delivered. So not only will they have somebody either from the Alzheimer's Society or from the Merton Older People's team presenting, but we're also recruiting carers to be co-delivering the training, so that there is both that professional input but also that personal lived experience in the equation. We're capturing student experience, and we're also asking people to kind of complete the family and friends test, just because it's what you should do. But one of the really important things in terms of the kind of educational courses is kind of looking at the lessons from the self-management literature for kind of adults with long-term conditions, and really kind of thinking about not only the agenda setting side, but also kind of goal setting and goal attainment, and a really important part of that process for carers. And again, we're asking carers to complete the assessments of managing index of caregiving experience. I suppose the things I've been talking about are very much at the kind of individual level from the carer's experience. However, there's a kind of real systems issue here. And we obviously, these are the kind of range of partners who are involved in this project. We're obviously grateful to the South West London Academic Health and Social Care Systems for the finance to be able to kind of pull this piece of work together. But the Alzheimer's Society are kind of critical partners in this. And they are in the process of shortly opening a dementia hub in Mitcham, which will become the hub for people who are newly diagnosed with dementia for information and support. So this work will be kind of hardwired into the work that they're doing. Merton Council, obviously through social services, but also through leading up to kind of director level for the Director of Community and Housing, who's kind of leading the, I can't quite remember the name, so I'm going to call it the Dementia Executive Group, but their work and commitment to making Merton a dementia-friendly borough. So it kind of builds into all of this and so cuts across different agencies in different ways. And then our own trust through the Merton Older People's team. And again, just bringing everybody together so that actually we do get those chains of care correct, but also where needed, and it plays to the kind of issues around either clinical leadership or management leadership, that actually it works not only at the individual level, but at a systems level across the different agencies. Thank you very much.